the topic. In this session, we'll be covering about how do we enable Entra user to be able to log in into Windows VM. On this point, we'll be covering over how do we provide uh, access from an Entra from a virtual machine level through RBAC, which we call it as role-based access control. Also, we'll be playing here and there troubleshooting settings on a virtual machine level so that we will be able to perform better management level operations over Windows. First, understand what is the use for an organization to enable Entra ID login for users to log in into the Windows team. Uh, if, if, when we are creating a virtual machine in general, we'll be we can log in into the VMs and we will be logging into VMs using the username and the password with which we are created. But if you can see, this is an administrator account, and we don't want users to use the administrator account details to log in into the virtual machines of the organization and perform some higher level operations. So we don't want them to install certain applications, or they don't need to have administrator access. They just need to have some level of user access to perform some operations. Like if they're developers, they're working on certain things, they can just perform some actions without having administrator actions. Similarly, likewise, even the operations team or DevOps team, whatsoever, the teams which are involved, the users login, they would need to actually access some specific application which are already installed in that meeting. They no need to have higher level permission to operate the entire machine. In such cases, we can go ahead and add users. Okay, we can go ahead and add users uh, from logging into the machine. Generally, we can create some user accounts and we can still provide it. But what is the uh, challenge even doing that? Example, what am I trying to say is if we go create a machine, we can create a machine and using the admin login details, we'll be doing an RDP into the machine, and then we'll create users in that Windows machine. And using those user details, the users, respective users can sign in. That's one way. But again, you'll end up managing as an org level point of view. If you look at an Azure level, uh, if that org is managing, if he's using Azure to manage their workloads and all that. Now, what will be the challenge? They, the users will be definitely part of that tenant, Entra ID tenant, where they will have the user details and password and everything. That management is happening there. User from the user management point of view in Entra ID, and again, those users are again created specifically in those in that respective virtual machine. And again, the password management, everything will be again has to be done separately, which is not, which is because they are not interlinked. To avoid, to have this set in place, the interlinking and all that. So virtual machines have the feature where they can use the same user ID login details and using the Entra authentication. The whole point is the authentication is being taken care by Entra ID. What does authentication taken care by Entra ID means that when a user and password has been provided to the machine, the are there the correct username and password will be validated by Entra ID instead of virtual machine taking care of it. Now, how do we enable that kind of authentication? And so the user management will be happening specifically for vendors. It is much more easier instead of managing authentication from a machine perspective, much more secured. And Then we also have authorization, whether they're administrator or a normal user. We can even manage that authorization from the Entra ID. So what is happening? You are managing auth plus authentication plus authorization from Entra ID, and that's something which organizations love to hear that word. That it is much more secured and more reliable compared to a normal practices which we are trying to follow. Any questions here before I jump into the next topic there? Now comes the next topic here is RBAC. What does RBAC mean? Role based, role based access control, uh, control. So we have different types of roles in RBAC roles which are built in and custom. What does built in and custom? Built-in is already they have been defined by Microsoft Azure. Okay, where they are where those roles specifically define what permissions those roles have and all that. They have been well defined. Custom, you can go ahead and create your own roles where by mentioning these are the permissions that you would like to have. Okay, we'll have a brief session in the next sessions and all that on this topic, but in a high level, I'm trying to say that RBAC is something will allow a feature in Azure where using an identity, okay, whether it could be an user, when we say identity, it could be an user, it can be a group, it could be an SPN, okay, it could be managed identity, which we call it as user managed identity. Any of this identity, we will give the role. What type of role is that is? RBAC role. We'll give an RBAC role, which could be a built-in, it could be a custom, means which is something that already defined by Microsoft. What roles you that kind of thing will have permissions will have that role, and you will assign that identity a role at what scope you want it. So these are the three factors that will be considered in an RBAC. Okay, and what scope you want. You can assign RBAC roles at a subscription level, at an RG level, at a resource level. Even higher in all point of view, you can even manage LVMs at an NG level management. So coming to hierarchy, if if anyone is having a much really better understanding over it, this is the hierarchy where the resources exist. So if you have a virtual machine that resides in an RV, an RV that resides in a subscription, and subscription resides in a management group. In general, when you're creating your own test accounts, like if you're having your own test accounts and all that, sub, uh, your subscription that you have created as a free trial and all that, it is created under a root tenant engine. But your organization still have multiple management groups. Under those management groups, any of the subscriptions which you are having or you have access to will be located. So not all, so you can have access to multiple management groups where if you have two management groups, you are given access to one management group. Under those management group, whatever subscription you have access, you will get it. And likewise, what does subscription mean here? It's a billing account. Without a billing account, Microsoft Azure won't allow you to create any resources in Azure. And under the subscription is what you'll have resource group and resources. Okay, that's the thing. Now, when you assign the RBAC role, you can assign it at the scope of MG level, you can assign it at the scope of subscription level, you can assign it at the scope of an RG level, you can assign it at the scope of resource level. Now, let's understand this example much more easily. So there is a company where there are multiple buildings in that particular area for that company where or of professionals of that or organization or members will be working in that building. Now, those members can have access to specific building. Okay. In that specific building, a specific floor. In that specific floor, a specific room. The likewise the same thing here. We can assign the user access specific role at an MG level, subscription level, RG level. Let's try to remember that way. So these are the topics they are back. And then we have Azure VM. We have seen how the Azure VM works. Here we create a VM and then uh, we have RBAC, and then we have Entra ID, which is taking care of authentication and authorization. What does Entra ID means? Entra ID is a identity access management tool that is provided by Microsoft Azure to manage the authentication and authorization of not just VM alone, multiple services that come under the Microsoft Azure. Okay, and what all services we have? We have IAS, we have PaaS, we have SaaS, and we have so whatever it comes under Microsoft Azure, specifically, we wanted to manage the authentication of the registration, we can do that comfortably from Enter ID. And that's the identity access management tool, or we call it as IDAM tool or IAM tool, whatsoever, where we manage the identities. And when we go into talking about managing and securing identities and all that, the scope becomes so huge because the Enter ID itself is so vast. And with these are the three ones which we'll cover. And let's go ahead. Let's go to the daily. Let's create a machine. So in interest of time, I've tried to uh, uh, what do you say? I've already opened certain tabs ahead so that we'll be only focusing on the ones uh, that is needed. Let me go ahead and create a virtual machine. Test VM01. And I'll choose here infrastructure redundancy. I'll go for the standard one. And here I'll be preferring Windows 11 Pro. You can choose Windows Server or the other versions, but be careful that there will be already settings set in place, which are security settings and which will not allow you to log in easily. Uh, uh, Enable and all. So you have to disable certain options when you're choosing the other OS versions and all that. So prefer the general Windows 11 or 10, something like that, which will help you to perform this demo. Now I will create user with the same name. I can create it with name trainer Indian at the rate 4.67. There is no change in this. There will be no change in the networking. You can choose networking option to be uh, public IP to be disabled, and you can choose bash and host and all that. As of now, I'm leaving that everything. I will name this as VNet 0 test East US VNet 01. And I have the subnet as left it as default, and I just left the test VN01 as IP. I'll just leave it that one. I'll go to management. I'll have to enable the Entra ID authentication here. And when the Entra ID authentication is set in place, even the system managed identity also has to be enabled. Otherwise, you will not be able to perform the actions. So that's one thing. And the action that you have to perform is using the users, whoever has the access to log into the VMs, they should be able to log in. So that is the only option which I've taken care. Now I've just got one error. I think that's because I didn't enable the this license there. I confirm that's an agreement that you have to just click on to use that. Windows 11. Now I'll go ahead and create it. Let's understand what is happening. I'm creating a virtual machine where I enabled, uh, I have a public IP, and I can choose the public IP to be an optional one. Okay. And I can choose it to be on optional and enable backend service to log in. Okay. Remember that. And generally, organizations will do this one. They just enable the backend service, and through that, they will try to log in into the VMs. They'll ask the user to log in into the VMs. Now, once that's completed, the next one is public IP is set in place. I've I didn't touch the NSG and all that, and I've just enabled Entra for VMs. When you're doing it, system managed identity will be enabled. Now, this is what we have done so far. Now, understand when you're trying to enable Entra ID authentication, what will happen is next, it's an extension that will be installed in the VMs. Okay, so let's make the login VM extension will be installed in VM unless the provisioning has failed, sorry, succeeded, uh, and ID won't be enabled. Okay, so something that you have to look at now. What does this mean? Now, the your log already has machines created. Okay, and they have mentioned that the machines are having entire ID logged in, enabled and all that. But one use they gave the user the access and all that. They gave access to multiple machines for multiple users. And once that is completed, one of the user came to you and said, "Hey, I used to be I used to be able to log into the machine, or someone has dropped me from an operations team that or some service team based on my request that I need an access to a machine. They have said that they gave me the access to the machine, but I'm unable to log in." For someone who is already logging in for a couple of days and all that, they mentioned that they're not able to log in into their VM. You have to troubleshoot or something like that. One of the troubleshooting which you'll go is you'll go into the medium and from a portal point of view and check whether the extension is provisioning is needed or is there anything that is failed. Now, when you can tell me that, hey, already user is logged in couple of days back, and then what is the problem? That means they have already an extension installed and all that. But certain times, operations team may perform updates on the extensions they have installed on a VM. If this extension, if it is not been updated properly, it will maybe showing as provisioning failed. In such cases, you have to be very clear to first always check whether the extension provisioning the state is succeeded. Or if in case if it is failed, then you have to ensure that. that's getting succeeded. The extension is properly installed in the VM. That's the one. After that, there will be next troubleshooting step and all that. We will get to that. This is something which will do. Now I'll close it up and I'll go to the VM. It's still getting updated, the VM extension. That's what you can see. Then creating a VM, I had to create a VNet because there is no existing VNet which is there. And then to create a public IP, there is should be an NSG that is getting created. And then we have a NIC that's getting created and then VM. So I'll first get into the VM and there won't be any changes and all that. But you can look at the extensions and we can see that it's still getting installed. You may see that later. Running, but the agent has not yet ready. Okay, let's log into the meeting. Sort of waiting for that. But when I log in into the machine at this point of time, first I'll try to log in using uh, this in admin details. Admin details are train at the rate 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay. While this is happening, I'll create a test user. So using those test user, we'll be logging inside this VM as like the trainer, how is he able to log in? I'll go to enter ID. So you can pick your users. In the interest of time, I'm choosing this user new HR01. Okay. But you can create your users, click on new user, create user, and you can click on create, and you will be able to can have the username and password, and you can log in from incognito with that user. So I've just logged in because we have to complete an authentication, authenticate, we have to download authenticator and we have to allow and all that. So to avoid that, all the hassle means to interest of time, I just logged in already. The in case if you have a user but you forgot the password and all, click on reset password and you can log in, and that should not be a challenge. Click on reset password, and once you click on reset password, you'll get the password, temporary password, and this is done. Check whether the extension is installed on it. So it's still ongoing. But anyways, I logged in into the VM. As I said, this demo will be only completed when we are able to log in using new HR01. It's taking certain time to load, but well, I see. Okay, the deployment is still in progress. It takes a couple of minutes for the registration, I mean, to ensure that Entra ID is been linked or connected to the machine and all that. And trying to log in also. Meanwhile, I'll address the concept of RBAC. That saves some time. I can go to the test VM, and if I want to give any users access, uh, I can give access at an RD level, going here through IEM, or I can give to a resource level specific like virtual machine by going to IEM, or even I can go to the subscription. And from the subscription, also I'll be able to provide access control IAM. Any of this can work. And if I want to have access at a management group also, I can do that. Here, I've created management group. I can go and give access from here. I can go to IAM also. There will be this IAM is the tab where you have to go to give anyone any identities, whether it's a user group, SPN, or the user managed identity. Now let me go and give a test VM01 the this user the required access to log into the VM. So if I go into virtual machine, there are few roles which are one is virtual machine user login, virtual machine administrator login, which will allow from portal to log in as an administrator or as a regular user. So I'll give it as an administrator login and enable new HR01 and click on the view place create. Selected the user, I gave the access. Okay. Now while that's happening, from settings, if I go into the settings of this machine, getting loaded. Oh, there is a flag. Click on setting. It's still taking certain time to go. Let me answer this. Okay. The deployment is still running. And this got, let me try to reconnect it. Maybe there is some issue with the reconnection there. Remote desktop, provide the public ID, and then provide the admin details. I would like to show you the other next troubleshooting steps. So when someone says that user are not able to log in and all that, you go and check the status here, whether provisioning state is succeeded or failed. Now, once that is done, that it is provision is state is succeeded, you will go and log in as an administrator into the machine. Want to just check the size. Oh, that's a mistake which I've done. I did it in one. I don't want to change this because still working on AD to be logged in. If I would have kept the size as some 2 or 4 and all that, it would have speed up the synchronization of the connection to Entra ID and all that. So that's why it seems to be there is a delay. But here from settings, and if you go into accounts info and all that, you will be able to check whether you are connected to Entra ID, login ID. That's the next step which you have to go and verify. Okay, we could see that. See, I was trying to say, right? There is an update that is available. If you select an update and you click on update, this one extension may get updated, and while that is updated, the status may be failed. So maybe that will avoid this one. Just to ensure that you're just checking all those. Just want to show from setting. See the provisioning. Maybe that the failed is because it was not able to synchronize with the. I'll not say use the word synchronize. It was not able to connect properly with the enter ID and all that. And so I've just updated the size of the VM. So you have to just set the specific size, and you click on resize, and the VM automatically gets resized. Uh, Now, if you see the, it's showing as one core. Now it will get updated to four core. Let's from there we'll try uh, again redoing the entire extension to be updated and all that. I mean installed into the VM. Expecting from there that issue should be resolved. The question the question you may get it is like when I'm changing the size of the VM, will it impact my uh, will I have any downtime and all that? Yes. Okay. Because the VM will get stopped. The status will be changed from it will first get stopped, it will resize, and then it will run. So because of this, you will face a bit of a downtime there. I will go and I'll click on update. We'll see how that works out. But here I'm inside the machine with the admin details and in settings, I click on settings. We can find from account. Maybe from this one. Your this account info, your account. So maybe somewhere here I would be able to see that connected to Entra ID account and all that. I'm not able to see that right now. Sign in options. No, nothing on sign in options. As I'm trying to right now redo the installing this one, let's see how that works out. Okay, manual update has failed. Now what I'll do is I can go ahead and click on remove the extension and I'll try to install the extension once again. So this is also getting created. I just create another VM, right? And there I try to follow the same steps, but with a bigger size. Let's see how that works out. So deleting the extension is also taking certain time. Okay, now that's done. Let's give it a minute like that. Now I'll go and click on add extension. Here there is an extension name called Azure AD based Windows login. And this is the extension that we need to have in the machine so that the Entra ID can be connected to the Windows machine. Here I'll just click on review plus create. So the extension, the deployment got completed. Let me go to the resource of SVM02 and we can see here the provisioning state is succeeded. Now I'll try to log in into this VM. Uh, We can see, we'll find out the difference between here and here much more easy. Once this is signed in, okay, the deployment got succeeded. So I'll go into test VM01 also, and I can go the extension. The provisioning state has succeeded. Now that is happening because, like, we could see that it is happening because of the size I've just selected it as previously, one core. I'll go to the account, and I could be able to see from the other accounts. No. Um, your account, sign in, your info. Be able to see it somewhere here. Other accounts. I'm not able to find this. Here we should be able to see Entra ID has been authenticated and all that connected to Entra ID. Maybe I have to reconnect to this machine, I guess. Mhm. Yes. Now you see that in the access work pool, we are able to see connected to Entra ID. The same way we have to be able to see it for the test VM01 also. But maybe logging in once again may resolve that issue. But that's the troubleshooting step which you have to validate, which I was trying to say. That when someone user is trying to reach out to you and say that they're not able to log into their VM, you will check this extension, and also you will go to the accounts, and you should be able to see uh, that step. Now, what if we are not able to do it? Then we have to connect using that uh, the Entra account here. I believe restarting will resolve that issue for that VM. But let me go ahead and follow the next step for the test VM02 to at least uh, have to complete the demo properly. So here I have to give the role assignment to HR01. The one which I have to give as virtual machine administrator login. Now HR01. Click on review, press create. I want to do RDP into this machine, which I was showing there. This, how I can do an RDP. A much more efficient way is this one. When we are connecting in multiple ways, we always click on connect and we can download the RDP. We'll open the file. So it's going to open like this, a window. When I click on connect, and it'll ask me to provide the username password, Azure AD, and it's new HR01. The details are uh, if you would like to get this ID, principal ID, the one that I would like to show you is go to Entra ID in the users. You click on new HR01, and here you'll be finding the user principal name. That's the one which I mentioned. So here, while you're doing it, mention that domain name. But before that, you append this one, Azure AD, and then provide the details, the password of the user, and that's the password of the user. Now you see that the credentials did not work. The reason is because trying to do the RDP there, but there is one setting that you have to remove. That is control panel. You have to disable an option called remote you network connection authentication and all that. So for that, you need to just go to control panel under system security, allow remote access. You'll have to disable this option, allow connections only from computers running on uh, with remote desktop with network level authentication and all that. So there you are just disabling that option, and to we'll have to open the RDP one. Uh, and when you open the RDP one here, okay, you will find the uh, this content there. Now you just have to append one item which I have it handy. Is this one where you are saying that enable credential adds SP uh, support and then authentication level, and you will have to save this, and then you have to try opening um, the RDP from the one which you have downloaded, right? Now you will just have to do that. But when you're doing it, this is how a window will show up. Previously, it was asking for connection and all that, right? But because I updated that RDP file with a specific content which I've just pasted, and you can find that in the comments or the description of the video, you can use that content there. Now I'll use the same thing as short AD slash new HR01 okay, on Microsoft.com, and then with us saying that there's already one user that was been signed in. Do you want to di- make them disconnected and all that? So if you see here, this will get disconnected automatically even if I don't close it. But I will be able to log in into the test VM01 because test 02 VM02 because I have the back permission on that VM. That is, if I go into role assignments, I click on this resource they have, it, information admitted program. If I don't give the RBAC access, then it is not possible for the VM to log in first place. I mean, the user to log in into also. So I have to, so two things, Enter ID has to be enabled, provisioning should be succeeded, then go to the control panel and check the status of work accounts. And you should see uh, option called Entra, connected to Entra. Once that is done, the next step would be far back access to the to VM to users. Okay, uh, where you will mention virtual machine uh, using role Azure virtual. Sorry, it's not Azure virtual machine administrator login or user login. So with this names, if you give the access at a VM scope, that will be done. And once you follow this step, so then you will download the RDP file, download the RDP file. That's the thing which I did. Download the RDP file and edit it where I appended one this one. Enable thread S thread SP support 100 and then authentication level colon I. What will happen because of this? You will be able to, when you click on the RDP file, it will allow you to authenticate as an other user there automatically, and you should be able to see. If you see right now, you're logged in as the test HR01 there. I can click on settings and I'll be able to find that one. So in the settings here. And from the accounts, I'll be able to see that I've logged in as new HRZVR solutions on Microsoft.com, and here administrator or new whatever user based on. Okay, something which you, this is how we log in and this is how we troubleshoot. Good that we are getting issues, but this is something which we are doing. The only way if this has not been connected is you click on connect and connect as an uh, uh, the account admin there to connect to your Enter ID and all that, and only then you will be able to complete this authentication. This is it. Any questions?